Okay, let's get going. Happy Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. And yeah, back at it in terms of work. Today we do a session on empathy. And it feels a little bit redundant to say mindfulness-based empathy because I think inherent in the process or the act of empathizing, there is sort of baked into it some degree of presence and self-awareness in order to do this really well. Um, I think you can also get to a point where empathy just becomes very much just like a natural way of functioning in the world, with like where you're not necessarily thinking about it so much. But I think the more intense the interaction or the I don't know, maybe even altercation is, I think the more it requires us to really sort of step up our mindfulness game in order to empathize. So here's a quick definition of how I would define empathy. It has to do with being fully present with what is alive in the other person. So when someone is sharing something with you, maybe what they're sharing with you is something about how they're dissatisfied or upset with something that you've done, or they're, I don't know, complaining about something else that's going on. It's our ability to really be fully present with their feelings, their sensations, their ideas, their thoughts, and importantly here, this is the hard part, without infusing their experience with our own stuff, right? Without sort of dispensing advice or sympathizing and sharing stories with them about, oh, when this happened to me, here's what happened, right? That's not empathy anymore. So it's empathy is really about just keeping the energy over there and giving them the gift of them having the experience of like, oh man, that feels really good. Like Ollie really is getting what I'm expressing. Easier said than done, right? So here's oftentimes what blocks us from being able to do empathy well. Um, One has to do with sort of correcting someone. This is especially, I know for me, it's especially true if someone is critical of me and they're saying, "Oh, Ollie, and then you did this and that, and you didn't even, fill in the blank." And my mind immediately goes to, wait a second, that's not what happened at all, right? So in that moment, I am no longer in empathy, right? So it's really me saying, that's not at all what happened, and I didn't say that, nor did I do that. That's not empathy, right? So being able to really just hang with whatever their experience is and just letting them have their experience, explaining or justifying, um, yeah, making, I don't know, trying to explain your rationale for why you did what you did or said what you said. That's no longer empathy either. Giving advice. You're out of empathy when the next thing you're about to say starts with well. Well, you know what you might have done or what you could have or should have done. And then sympathy. This is one of my favorite ones. So sympathy is a really sort of it's a well-intentioned, I think, attempt at empathy, but it redirects the energy back to us. So someone tells me about their dog getting really ill and maybe having to put them down. Even with the best of intentions, if I then sit there and say, oh man, I think I know how you feel because when I went through that with my dog, here's what happened, right? So just notice, like, I just sort of hijacked the energy away from what's going on for them and brought it back into my world. So basically anything that shifts energy away from them and back to us or something else. So yeah, and this the cool thing is this is just something we can practice. And yeah, let's spend a few minutes there and see how your empathy muscles are doing. So close your eyes. Kicking it off with some presence and awareness, bringing attention inward. Just starting off by getting curious about the body. How's your body doing right now? Does it feel vibrant, energetic, sleepy, a little bit achy? And just noticing that ability to on demand, bring our attention inward, especially into the physical body. It's a big part of presence. It's just like, yep, this is what it's like to be living inside my body in this moment. And also getting curious about the mind, so what's going on between your ears right now. How would you describe your mood, your attitude, just your general disposition towards yourself, the world? Again, there's no right answer here, but it's really just noticing like, oh, feeling a little closed off, or I'm feeling really excited and wide open, whatever it might be. And then shifting gears to flex our empathy muscles here. So you can think of a time where you were getting some feedback from someone who was maybe a little bit upset or critical of something you have done. Maybe you said something, maybe you didn't say something when they thought you should have said something. Maybe this is in your marriage or with your kids or at work. It doesn't really matter. But just something where you were on the receiving end of someone was taking issue with something you did. And the first step is just to, in your memory, just notice what's it like to be on the receiving end of this feedback or this criticism. And then notice what it feels like in the body. Like usually, criticism or something along those lines has this tendency to we get into a kind of a protective stance energetically, mentally, emotionally. So see if you can notice that in your body. And then just playing with this idea of, well, what would it be like if I actually really moved in the opposite direction, just opened myself up wholeheartedly, open mindedly, and really listened to what they had to say. I was really with their experience. This is about them. It's not about me, even though my name may come up at times in what they're saying. This is really about just giving them the gift of reflecting back and making space for their experience. Just starting off with what they're describing, probably something about some timeline of who did something or didn't, or something along those lines. And then imagining yourself without defense, just sort of reflecting that back and saying, yeah, you remember this happened, then it was followed by that. And then imagining what were they feeling when you said this or that happened. My guess is you were feeling, and then you fill in the blank. And the same with what they were, sounds like what they were thinking. When this happened, you must have been thinking that, or is this what you were imagining was going on or worried about? Or so the empathy part here is really just without defensiveness, without trying to correct them or change them, is just reflecting back and saying, I think I'm getting the experience that you were having. And you may find yourself disagreeing with some of the facts or the timeline or remembering things differently. And that's okay. Like you're not condoning, you're not agreeing with what they're saying. You're literally just mirroring back as accurately as you can that when you were having this experience, here's what it was like for you. Am I getting that? And if there's any resistance, see if you can pinpoint what the resistance is. Like where's the yeah, but that's not what happened. Or yeah, maybe that's what happened, but you got to understand where I was coming from. Right? That's the explaining or advice giving. Well, maybe next time, or well, maybe you shouldn't have fill in the blank, right? Just notice if there's any of that alive in you as you're listening to them. I think in an ideal world, once we've truly empathized with someone, there's a palpable energetic shift. Oftentimes people run out of things to say when they feel seen and heard and validated for their experience. And ironically, they're much more open to then hear us out and say, hey, you willing to do the same for me? And then we can, maybe if they're up for it, we can share our version of the story or our version of the interaction and our feelings and that for a moment and just know any resistance that comes up or imagining yourself back in that interaction. And shifting gears from that memory and come back into the present moment, feeling back into the body, breath, feet. You take a deep breath in, out through the mouth. So just letting go of any remnants of that memory, that interaction, just relaxing the shoulders and just exhaling all the way and holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and in and out. Relaxing the chest, the belly, the hands. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and keep your eyes closed. In my experience, practicing empathy is very much a kind of stepwise thing. And so maybe even just setting the intention, if this appeals to you, just see if you can just spend a little more time than usual listening to others, reflecting back, getting a sense from them like, hey, am I getting what your experience was all about? Takes a while to get good at it. And it also is dependent on different people. Different people are easier or harder to empathize with about different topics. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. Open your eyes, come on back. And that's it for today. See you guys tomorrow.